What is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to Mi Casa es Su Casa, and I am your host, Nico House. And as always, I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, the Credit Surgeons. All you have to do is go to thecreditsurgeons.com, and they'll make sure that you get your credit repaired not later, but as soon as humanly possible. You know, a lot of these places out here will have you waiting 1 to 2 years, will only dispute a couple of items at a time. Some credit repair companies will only dispute 1 or 2 items at a time. But credit surgeons are not like that. They maximize your dispute so that you can get your credit fixed as soon as possible. So check them out. Go to thecreditsurgeons.com and schedule yourself a consultation today. Also, if you do not belong to our One Follow $1 campaign, go ahead and do that. You can join the campaign as simple as donating $1. All you have to do is go to www.patreon.com/micasa, exactly how it sounds. And then you can be part of the movement that has helped us get where we are today. It'll be a great way to show your appreciation. So thank you all for those who are already donating. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this. As you all know, Trump did a State of the Union the other night, and I was going to do a podcast on that, but I'm just like, I already know what I'm going to say, which is pretty much what I said on my other podcast, discussing how Trump has pretty much succumbed to the deep state. So I want to talk about something else that I feel has not gotten talked about enough, and it should have, but it hasn't been. This whole Joe Kennedy thing, people. What the hell? Do you all not consider this consider this the biggest slap in the face by the Democratic Party? Most of y'all, if you don't, I'm going to give you a few reasons why, but most of you all didn't even know who Joe Kennedy was until 3 days ago, or 4 days ago now, when the Democratic Party started throwing him in your face. And I even said, Howard Dean, whenever he came out and said we should be looking for someone young and strapping and ready to go and to represent the millennials and the youth of this country. Of course, he was preparing for someone like a Kennedy. I don't know if the Democratic Party has realized this, but remember the last 2 candidates we had that ran for office, and they thought that they were going to win simply based off of name recognition and name recognition alone, no matter how bad their record or the records of the family members prior to them were. I think one guy was named Jeb Bush. How did he do? Got obliterated. The Republican Party was tired of dealing with legacy. Also, I mean, he wasn't the most. It's crazy because, like, compared to the rest of the party, Jeb Bush might be the most liberal one. It was between him and Kasich. But on the other side of that fence, it was Hillary Clinton, probably the most recognized, and whether it be famous or infamous name in politics, whether it be domestically or internationally. And she tried to ride that train all the way to the station, except for she got derailed by this little thing called truth, by another little thing called a political revolution. Shout out to Bernie Sanders. So they tried Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is not polling high enough to even talk about whether or not she's viewed as favorable by most Americans. I know, right? Surprise, surprise. She's never done anything important. Cory Booker is not viewed, even if they could draw a comparison, he's not viewed favorable because he got exposed as being a corporate whore. So the next step is, let's bring the rich white guy back in. Like, they don't have a strategy, people. They don't have one. They literally got Joe Kennedy up there. And if you watched his speech, it was almost too perfect. When I say perfect, I mean his pentameter, his inflections, his pauses. There were perfectly timed pauses. Literally. In between each new sentence, each new phrase, each new thought. Ben Dixon actually showed a sound clip of it, people. He showed a sound clip of it. It was perfectly timed pauses. It was extremely robotic. In my humble opinion, it was extremely disingenuous. But if you're a Democrat, I'd be absolutely livid. I'd be pissed. Because they have a candidate right now. Right now. That could destroy Trump. And they don't want him to win because they don't want your party to do progressive things. Your party, by the way, doesn't do anything as it is. So why people are Democrats? Because I'm independent. I always have been. I've never in my life been a registered Democrat or Republican. And it's funny because people used to tell me once upon a time, they would say, Nico, you're going to have to pick something one day. You're going to have to pick something. You're going to have to pick sides. I'm serious. People tell me all the time, you can't just not pick a side. You're going to pick one or the other. Yeah. Who's laughing now? Yeah. Independence for life. Independent gang. Seriously. I'm happy I made that decision really young. I figured it out during high school debate that both parties were absolutely full of shit. Absolutely. So I'm glad I made that decision. But they don't want another independent coming in and doing what Bernie Sanders did last year, which is totally messing the game up for everybody. The Republicans are even in a position where they had to go totally right. Because, you know, most conservatives are like, they're like neoconservatives are they don't openly display racism. They use coded words like welfare and make you think that somehow, even though your state is dominantly white, that it's the black people taking all the tax dollars. Or they make you think that the immigration problem is actually causing an increased crime rate in your area when it's still, depending on what area you live at, like if you're in Arizona, it's definitely still the white people that cause most of the crime in the area. So, you know, and actually violent crime overall has gone down since immigration has actually gone up. So, I mean, if you came here and you risked everything to come here, why would you commit a crime to be sent back? It's kind of counterintuitive, but these neoconservatives, they were supposed to be like centrists. Centrists that are in place simply to win an election so that a lobbyist can do whatever the hell they want to in the legislature. With the legislature, I should say. But this type of Trump-esque MAGA, is that what they like to say? The MAGA conservatives, they're dangerous. They're dangerous because they were enabled by the neoconservatives simply so the neoconservatives could maintain office. So they had to go very, very, very far right socially. But the problem is a lot of, other than the tax reform, a lot of Trump's policies are not really, or at least the things that he preached during the election, I mean, they weren't. They were actually liberal policies. He's actually lived up to that. In case any of you are wondering, he has not lived up to that. We did a whole show about it. But he's not lived up to that. So, what do we do next? We look to the Democrats and then we expect them to, hey, you have a 1-2 punch. You can hit him, kill it in the primaries, hit it with Bernie Sanders, and then follow right up with the progressive candidate, right? So you can end the Republican Party as it stands. Obviously, parties always return, but you'll end it as it stands. It will not be the same. All you have to do is let Bernie Sanders win, let him galvanize people to come out and vote, and then, hey, if we got to fix the Democratic Party after Bernie Sanders is in office, we can do that. I'm perfectly fine with that. But what does the Democratic Party do? Not only do they screw Bernie, but they actually screw Sam Ronan, who was running for, not Sam Ronan, but Keith Ellison, who's running for DNC chair. I heard that story. Then they started screwing people all over the country, pretty much out in the open, just so they can maintain some power in key areas. I see it every day in Florida. I know there are a lot of people who saw it in California during the Kimberly Ellis race. It's a constant thing. And so now they've gotten into this habit of pushing establishment candidates that they know have enough baggage that they're not going to fly off the wall and do like something radical like pass universal health care or something like that. Oh, God. They would never do something like that. But what they should be doing is accepting their fate and moving on. But now they're just treating you like idiots. Why is it that Joe Kennedy, this is a good example. Just why is it that Joe Kennedy thinks that it was appropriate to address quote unquote dreamers in Spanish? Now, mind you, these are people who have been here the majority of their lives, and a lot of the time their first language is actually English. This is the language they communicate in the most. But what's a little more insulting is, even if, which is a different topic or a different point, even if 100% of the DACA recipients were Latino, what the hell makes you think it is okay to pretend to relate to them, to pander for votes? Understand something, people. I know because of our politically charged climate, some people they forget what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. But unless you are eating with them, you are sitting down with them, you are indulging in their culture, you are, for example, I went to a Korean church for about 10 years. Random story. We'll get into it another time. But I went to a Korean church for about 10 years. I spoke Korean. I still speak a little bit, not as much as I used to. Of course, because Korean is definitely a language you have to practice really often. But when I spoke Korean, I wasn't pandering to anybody. I spoke it because that's the way we communicated. If I speak Spanish in Miami, I'm not pandering to them. I'm not running for office. But I speak Spanish. If you take me out to the club, I dance bachata really well, actually. I can merengue. I can do all that stuff. Nobody would look at me crazy if I spoke Spanish in the middle of an election. However, I don't know who Kennedy is. We never seen him before. And then just because we're talking about DACA recipients, you think it is appropriate to speak Spanish. Let me tell you what that's equivalent to, people. That's the equivalent of, let's just say, Bernie Sanders going to Chicago, or hell, because it's prison reform, we could talk about anywhere in the country. If he goes up on CNN and says to a bunch of black people, hey, my G's, listen, y'all, we're going to get it popping on this prison reform tip. Y'all ain't even got to worry about that. Listen, I'm taking care of it. It's all good. 100. That's right. That way. Like, if Bernie said that, people be like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? He's lost his mind. Right? Almost as silly as when Hillary Clinton did the hot sauce thing and it was a meme for like 2 months. That is exactly, or the nay to try to seem more relatable. That is exactly what Joe Kennedy did. I don't know why people are pretending like it's something like that's okay, because it was not. But let's also talk about this other fact. 90% of DACA recipients are from Latin American countries, and that's perfectly fine. However, the other 10% or so are not. You catch my drift? So you essentially just marginalize everyone else, forgetting, because this is what pisses me off, people. So in the red or swing states, Latino votes can change everything. However, the Desi community, the Arab community, hell, even Israelis, even Brazilian communities, every one of those groups live in democratically dominated areas where you know for a fact you're going to win. So why do I need to pander to them? So you didn't even acknowledge their presence. People will be like, well, it's mostly Latino, so what's the problem? Pause. I am, in case you didn't know, black. We make up only about 12 to 13% of the population. That means I'm not important? Because when you just spoke for the Dreamers, you addressed Latinos only. Matter of fact, you've perpetuated the very idea that Mexicans, essentially, are the Dreamers, reinforcing the idea on the right that it is the Mexicans who are giving them all the problems, and we're going to protect them, protect you from the Mexicans that are giving you all the problems. So y'all don't care. We're gonna pretend like there's not a bunch of Somalians here. There's Somalians in Minnesota. There's Somalians in Vermont who don't speak Spanish. There are Brazilians in Florida who do not speak Spanish. Well, most of them do, but that's a different discussion. That's not the point. You know the damn point. There are Desi. For those of you who don't know what Desi is, it's Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, that area, Punjabi, that area. They don't speak Spanish. Well, unless, they live in Miami, they might. But they don't speak Spanish. Do you see what I'm saying, people? That's ridiculous. It's insulting as hell. We ain't gonna talk about the drool on the side of his lip. I ain't gonna be petty on this episode. But he didn't even think about it because why? Like I said, that's not the demographic they're worried about getting the votes for. Not only that, God forbid we ever humanize Somalians, Arabs, Desis, whatever. God forbid we ever do that. God forbid we ever humanize Muslims. God forbid we ever humanize brown people. And people might start asking questions about what we're doing over there. Oh, God. God forbid we ever have someone go up and speak Arabic. Go over there and speak Urdu, Farsi. Yeah, can't have that. That would push too many people away. They would connect that with Islam and then people would be turned off. It's disgusting pandering, people. It's disgusting levels of pandering. But let me know what you think. Leave your thoughts below. Like I said, be sure to check out our sponsors at www.thecreditsurgeons.com. And also make sure you donate to that one follow $1 campaign at www.patreon.com/Mikasa. And always, always remember, ladies and gentlemen, find your balance. Peace. Before I go, though, make sure you check out the new article that I wrote talking about the only thing that could cost Bernie Sanders his election. I'll go ahead and post a link in the description. Definitely check that out. It's an analytical article talking about his rhetoric and things like that and what he should be focusing on versus what he is focusing on. I'd love to hear your opinion about it. All right, people. Have a good day. Peace.